beings, y'all.
Let's get it.
Put your hands together. Put your hands together.
Party people, put those hands together for calling all beans. I'm your host, DJ, and can I get a amen for everybody who's backstage that you're about to meet that's in the green room? We have an amazing panel built around my homegirl, Mizzy, who is the number one. She is the Tom Brady of of Sandra Birchmore support. So while this will be a little bit of a fun intro, the seriousness of the topic of which we're about to tackle is not lost on me nor any of my guests. So keep that in mind as we certainly will keep it in mind. Thank you, Julie, for manning the chat. There's a whole bunch of people here. We're going to say hi to everybody tonight, and we will get those questions in at the end. So it's going to go roundtable portion, open conversation, and chats, and super chats, and all that. And sometimes we may go right to super chats because you guys asked amazing questions last time that we had a roundtable, and it took like 30 minutes to get through them all. And we're gonna make sure we honor all of them. So, all right, let's get right to it. Let me make sure if the music is turned on. I don't want it to overshadow. It looks like it is turned on. So, this young lady right here, as I mentioned, is the number 12. She is the Tom Brady of Sandra Birchmore, the champion of this cause, and someone whom everyone on this panel admires. So let's bring on Mizzy in the hizzy light. Thin Lizzy here.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
Can I get a hey man from Mizzy?
Amen.
Thank you, girl. All right. Next up, right here is my man. I don't know if you guys got to see him. If you watched any of last weekend's standouts, you were going to see this gentleman. I believe that he was in Dedham. You will hear his voice saying hello to the aggrieved party, Miss Karen Reed. And man, all the stuff that he's doing, we're not aware of all of it. We're aware of some of it. I don't know if you're aware of all of it, and I don't even know if anybody is. All the things that Peter is doing behind the scenes for this topic to bring justice to both of these ladies. One, unfortunately deceased, Miss Sandra Birchmore, Karen Reed, who is fighting for her freedom, and of course, Officer John O'Keefe. So put those hands together for Sergeant Peter Murphy.
All right.
Amen, brother. Look at him.
All right.
What's up, handsome? All right.
Bring it.
Bring it. That's right. This man is ready. This is why Sean loves him so much. He's ready to go at any time, man. He's not no cream puff. All right. Let's find this young lady right here. Oh, my goodness. She's had a couple of amazing episodes. I tweeted one out the other day. I believe she had on Dave Cullinane, the producer for that show on Barstool, or as Missy might say, Barstool Sports. And those guys did just an incredible job. And The Case podcast, The Case, if you really want to get inside, at least in terms of audio, the most information about what happened with Sandra Birchmore. And now it continues as we move forward, and we're going to get into that. But this young lady is an amazing content creator whom I admire, and she is absolute appointment listening. And I'm really glad she's going to be an upcoming guest on Calling All Beings, where I'll get to ask her questions outside of a roundtable format. So, party people, put those hands together for the legal, medical, homie, legend, Nurse Kim.
Hello, everyone. DJ,
You every single time, okay? This is I'm not going to be able to fit my head through a door with you giving me an entrance like this each and every time. I am so appreciative.
You deserve it. I mean, everybody here thinks the same thing when they watch the shows, whether it's on TikTok or YouTube. So, yeah, I'm so glad you're going to join me for that other episode. This gentleman right here is another gentleman I kind of think of hashtag unafraid. Of course, he's a grifter like me, but a noted grifter. But he has just been on Twitter, appearing on people's shows, giving of his valuable time to defend now both of these women with what they went through. And without him, I mean, what are our chances of getting on a legal mind like this? I mean, they're very, very slim. You know, we have Melanie Little who bless us in the community, but there's Emily, I believe her name's Emily D. Baker, who's amazing. But they're very, very few. So with that, we're glad to have him on for maybe his third appearance or second. I can't remember, but hopefully there'll be many more. Put your hands together for attorney Mark Bederow.
How are you?
Celtics fan is in the building.
World champion Celtic fan. Thank you. But yeah.
That's a world champ. You know what? Do you have a number 33 somewhere in your closet?
Yeah, we do. But I guess maybe 18 times world champion. Any other numbers we should throw out? Or we'll just leave it at that. Okay.
Is this because I told you I was a Knicks fan? Is this what this is about? Mark, I get it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm surrounded by, Giants, Jets, Knicks, Mets, Yankees. So
yeah, you had Red Auerbach, we had Red Holtzman. What are you going to do? What do we chop live over here? So anyway, all right. Let's jump right into it. So we're going to get into the round table. I thought I would kick us off with a question, and then we can take it around the horn. So I'm going to pass it to Mizzy. She's going to look to her left. Pass it to Sergeant Murphy, who's going to look down diagonally in our Brady Bunch square here, and go to Attorney Bederow, and then on to legal medical legend Nurse Kim. So my question to you, Mizzy, is who do you think will be implicated by Farwell to the best of your knowledge and perhaps information?
Probably Robert Devine. I mean, I don't know how much he wants to implicate his brother, but definitely Robert Devine. That might be the person to help his case a little bit, because other witnesses have said to me that he's the one who groomed them, to be predators. I mean, they always had it in them, but he took them under his wing and helped them along.
Is it you who mentioned on another show that his brother was not, let's say he was not William or Billy was not protective of Matthew? Is that correct?
I don't think I said that.
Okay, I didn't know where I heard that, so we'll leave that to Peter Murphy. Peter, who do you think will be implicated, sir?
I probably would stick with. You're probably going to go after Bob Devine, right? Because that what Missy just said, pretty much. I don't know. Maybe he'll go after. Maybe he'll have to go, Bill. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, is he gonna roll? Is he gonna flip? Is he gonna vomit? Try to make his best deal here? What do you think? What do you think is going to be the outcome here?
Yeah, Mark spoke about this with Melanie, and Mark, I believe you said you didn't think that there was really good cause for him to flip.
Well, the issue with him, I mean, death is on the table right now. That's certainly a motivating factor to flap your gums. But realistically, it's not going to be a death penalty case. But even if he were to cooperate, he's going to have to do tantamount to life in prison. So is he willing to cooperate? I don't know. As far as who could be next, this is going to sound like a cop-out answer, but I don't know. I mean, we just don't know whether he's going to cooperate, whether he's even found to be credible if he does cooperate. Are they looking more at sex crimes that might not rise to the level, obviously, of these horrifying things that happened to Sandra Birchmore? And are there statute of limitations issues depending on how serious or unserious the crimes are? Or are they looking at some of the people who investigated this? Again, this is all speculation, but you'd have to think that the U.S. attorney is concerned with some of the conduct that occurred from the state police. And I think that, one of the obvious people with that is the cell phone guy Guarino, who couldn't pick up a lot of this evidence apparently. And he failed to pick up some pretty significant evidence from Jennifer McCabe's phone and Karen Reed. So, I think that's a possibility, but in all fairness, we're speculating. I don't know what else they already know and who else has already come in, where else they're looking. And the indictment was 4 pages, which is about as thin a federal indictment as you'll ever see. There were some affidavits for the detention hearing that you saw some things, but the universe of knowledge that they shared and the documents that have been filed is nothing. So God only knows what else is going on and what they know. But as far as who's next, I don't know.
A good call. I heard we had 2 Robert Devines. We'll see what Nurse Kim's thing. I just want to say, Peter, I went to mute on your mic simply because our voices are coming out of the speakers of your laptop and in through the mic. So when you want to say something, whenever it is, if you need to interrupt, whatever, just hit unmute on your microphone. Can you see that? It's right here.
This is a new setup. Is there anything I can do to make this?
No, we'll just have to get you some earbuds. Once you get earbuds, all the sound and the voice will be in your ear and not, because right now it's coming out of your laptop speakers and in through your laptop microphone. So we're getting that feedback. So watch, when I go like this, you can't hear it now. Test, test, test. So just hit this unmute when you want to talk. Can you see that?
I do.
Okay. All right, brother. All right. Also, I want Romy. Thank you so much, homie. I greatly appreciate the 1999. Greatly appreciate it. And if you have questions, please let me know, and we will get to it. Nurse Kim, ma'am, who do you think is implicated next, ma'am?
Yeah, so I'm just going to go a little bit different, and I'd love to see where we're going to be with Chief McNamara. If there is going to be any evidence that perhaps other things were going on in the department that he would like to say, she's known about all of it. If so, again, it's all speculation, but at the end of the day, she was supposed to be the oversight. Devine was above Farwell, but then, Chief McNamara has to take accountability at the end of the day. So I would like to see if that pans out to anything, in my opinion.
That totally makes sense. Of the way we could see things go. Just wait, and also, there was word yesterday about possible shakeups in both those departments, according to Sean and I believe it was Javier Vasquez. I just want to say hello to somebody in the chat. I love this prosciutto sandwich. What's up? Thank you. That is so awesome. So anyway, prosciutto sandwich. Anybody here not like prosciutto? I don't know. Anyway, I know Kim does.
Can I just add one thing? There's a lot of discussion in the chat about, he waived his detention hearing. That's because there's a new lawyer, and the new lawyer wants to be credible. Obviously, asking for bail at this moment on behalf of a guy who was indicted for the crime that he was, and then staging a suicide and potentially facing charges for killing an unborn child, he's not getting released. He's going to be held. The lawyer is simply being credible. It's a futile argument. Perhaps at a future date, they'll do that when they get prepared, but probably not. This guy's going to be rotting in federal custody probably for the next several decades. But he's not waiving a hearing because he's rolling over or the lawyer is stupid or he doesn't want this. It's the lawyer making that decision, saying this is not credible, and you have no credibility, and only the lawyer can even make you look remotely credible in that situation, and asking for bail for this guy is just ridiculous. So that's all that is. I wouldn't read into it meaning anything more than the lawyer telling the client, we can't ask for bail right now. That's crazy.
No pun intended. Read
Yeah.
into it. Sandra, excuse me. Look at that. I just called Missy Sandra. This is so weird. I told you, I'm totally ready to hook you up with a medium who can communicate with Sandra, even though I know she's already sent you communications in the mornings. But anyway, what's your topic, hypothesis, or question, my friend?
I want to talk about Morrissey's office, and it's specifically Lieutenant Fanning, because I'm trying to say this in a nice way. He's a liar. I could specifically speak to that because I spoke to him. And one of the things that he lied about to me specifically was he said, oh, Farwell was really careful in his communications with Sandra. He wasn't saying much at all in text. He was very, very careful. And him and I went around and rounds, and I kept bringing it back up that I thought she was murdered. And he said, oh, no, I know what, I know what she killed herself. I've seen thousands and tons not necessarily thousands, but tons and tons of suicides. And trust me, she killed herself. And he also said, shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. He also said that, Sandra was very secretive. And I said, that's because of the grooming. And he's like, yeah, but, she was very secretive and, she was messed up. So I want him to get a lot of heat because he lied to me. He lied to the family and repeatedly lied to Sandra's family.
Sergeant Murphy, John Fanning, your thoughts, John Fanning, Sergeant Murphy. And you got to unmute now. You see you? There you go.
How's that?
Yes, sir.
We good to go here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think he's got some huge culpability here. The investigation, the crime scene search. What the hell is he doing with a case that he was working, in the same department? And then that goes back to what Mizzy was just talking about as far as looking at Morrissey. I mean, what is Morrissey doing putting a family friend like Proctor in charge of one case and now putting Fanning in charge of a case that he worked with the suspects in? I mean, it just flies in the face of reason. And I think he's got a real problem. Who knows? Maybe that'll be where Farwell goes with his first flip. I don't know. There could be other players, as Mark said. There could be other players, even in other departments.
Sorry, we just got Susanne in here. Yay!
I might have given a little nudge.
Woo!
Hi, Susanne. Thank you. I didn't see you at the bottom of the screen, so thank you. I'm so glad you're here, and you'll be able to go right after Peter Murphy. I'm sorry if I interrupted you, Peter. Were you concluded on that?
I think I pretty much got to where I wanted to go with that. That Fanning's got some huge culpability here, and he ties it. He if they say that a fish rots from the head back or the head down, I guess that puts Morrissey at the head, but Fanning's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I'm going to extrapolate on this when we get to Nurse Kim, or at least extrapolate on Missy's question when we get to Nurse Kim. But before that, welcome, Miss Susanne. It's an honor to have you on Calling All Beings. And did you hear Missy's question when you were in the chat?
Oh, I've been waiting with bated breath. Don't worry, I'm on every bit of it. Don't you worry.
Yes,
I did,
ma'am.
and I, if I may, at some point, I want to piggyback off of those points.
Yes, you're going to go after Peter brings up his topic. Your topic is next.
Okay.
So go ahead. So did you have anything you wanted to add on Fanning, or did you want us to go to Mark? Uh-oh. Is she on mute? I don't know.
You said,
Maybe.
well, you said Peter. I'm ready to go whenever Peter was still
Yeah.
finishing his point.
I believe
No, he was finished.
I'm done with Fanning.
Okay. I'm not done with Fanning.
I will never be done with Manning.
So in terms of it, I guess a procedural question, if you will, was Fanning assigned to the role as lead detective in this case, or did he insinuate himself via, sort of declaring a working knowledge of the facts of the town that Sandra was from and police programs, etc., knowing the players in the case, or did he have a say, or did his supervisor assign him to it, and then it just went awry from there? Is the supervisor being detective? Sorry, is it Lieutenant Detective or the other way around? Gerard Mataliano, who has since retired. I think he retired mid-case, actually.
Peter, if you want to weigh in on that, I don't know if you have. Let's see, unmute. Yeah, there you go. Okay, you're muted. There you go.
What are you looking for? I'm sorry, Susan. You're looking for the name on Nataliano?
No. I'm down with Mataliano. I'm wondering, did he make Fanning, take this case, or Fanning and Dunn for that matter, or was it just a sign in the due course of today? Here's where you are. Here's where you're going. Because I think it's an important point whether or not he insinuated himself sort of in Proctor style as being somebody who could contribute something, which we now know is obviously the opposite.
I can only speculate that, there's a head of that DA's office who we know who it is, and I don't think anybody should be in a position to just insert themselves into an investigation. I think they have to be assigned, rightly or wrongly, and I would say that had to come from the top, and shame on them for allowing it.
Okay, well, while we're still on that topic, Gerard Mataliano seemed to have a pretty vast knowledge of similarly conflicted cases that were fraught with issues such as, I don't know who's familiar with the Brian Johnson case out of Millis. Mataliano was in charge of investigating this gentleman who was very new to the force, and he was in a relationship with a high school girl. And at some point, while he was being reprimanded that the relationship was not a good look, he had a public meltdown, shot up his cruiser in this grandiose effort to draw attention to himself and become a victim. And Mataliano was, to summarize it, the sort of bad cop in the room versus, I don't remember who the good cop was, vetting this guy and eventually bringing him down. So given his knowledge of situations of that ilk, didn't he see anything wrong with this investigation?
That's an interesting. I hadn't heard him referenced. Go ahead, sir.
I was just going to say with a big YES. He must have. He should have.
Thank you for adding that context. Mark, would you have anything on Fanning or what Miss Susanne just said?
This guy's going to be the poster child of a disastrous investigation, the same way Michael Proctor is synonymous with the Cameron Reed investigation. It's his investigation. He did a terrible job. He obviously missed a lot of signs as well as with other people. And the proof is in the pudding, just on the way he did his work and the lack of professionalism in certain parts, which is only going to make the community feel less secure, less comfortable in how the policing is there. And the only example you need is when they first find, a young lady, terribly, apparently hanging herself on a doorknob. It's understandable that you would have an initial, literally, night of incident working theory that this looks to be a suicide, but you go where the facts are. You don't reach a conclusion and then kind of put the square peg in the round hole. And they just missed, and him as the lead investigator missed so many signs, but I think what you can't avert your eyes to are at some point when you know that this guy Farwell, if nothing else, is just a dirtbag for what he was doing with a child, the way he was grooming her, having relations with her. He's married. I mean, he held his newborn child, apparently, we now know, within a short period of time after apparently killing his own unborn child, apparently. But this is all going to come back to him when you look at the report that he filed in this case with his interview of Matt, okay, in a parking lot, in an investigation of a suspicious death, suicide, whichever it was. And for the state police not even to say, Officer Farwell, come to the department and do a formal interview in the DA's office, right? They were more than willing to offer up, facilities during other cases and whatnot. That's what you do. He's not Matt. The report itself is comically thin. It appears to be very self-serving. It certainly contains information which is disparaging, if that's the right word, of Sandra, whether the facts are true or not. Obviously the things that he said to Mizzy, I can't speak to any of that, but that sounds terrible. And at the end of the day, if they were having problems and he's the lead investigator and, we can't get into the cell phone that, the other agency had no problem getting into, the same way the other agency had no problem getting into in Karen Reed's case and in other cases, why didn't they seek that other agency's help to get into the phone in this investigation? Why didn't they ask more questions or see more things that were disturbing, which clearly suggested that this did not appear to be a suicide based on her demeanor, her happiness about having a new child, interview these witnesses? It appears to be one giant whitewash for whatever reason. I don't know why. I don't know why they would be so quick to just dismiss a serious investigation like this. But at the end of the day, he's the Michael Proctor of this when this goes sideways. So sucks for him, I guess.
And before we toss this over to Nurse Kim, Blair, thank you for showing up. It's a pleasure to have you back here in the chat. If you would please check your, or if you'd follow me, I want to DM you because I would like to get you on Calling All Beings as well. So thank you for stopping in again, sir. I also watch your show and come in the chat. And Miss Jessica NB, check your DMs as well because we're supposed to finalize a date for you to be on CAP. So if you do that, please, if you follow me, Blair, I can DM you. We can get you set up on here, and Jessica as well. And Nurse Kim, I felt like I just want to put a little bit of a spin on this. I really admired that episode where I want to say it was Turtle Boy, Kirk, and Dave, which was an outstanding episode. But it seems like Kirk is a little bit too charitable in terms of what Fanning's intentions might or might not have been. I think Mark is a little more charitable than I think everything's purposeful. I don't think things were mistaken. I think they were done for cause. But what's your take on that, ma'am?
Yeah, so I respect Kirk Minahan, I respect Dave Cullinane, and I respect heavily Mizzy and Susanne. This is my first time getting to internet meet you, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for all of your activism, for you never stopping, and for you keeping the pressure and the pedal to the metal. And we're on our way, you guys, and it's all because of you. So, just round of applause.
100, baby. Mizzy in the hip.
Amen. So just as it relates to Fanning, I've spoken with Dave, we've gotten, him and I are very close. We work on our show together, and he's like a little annoying brother that I never wanted, but I have. So we are aware of conversations that have occurred with Fanning talking, directly to Dave and Kirk, saying that women are emotional, okay, when relating this to Sandra Birchmore's apparent suicide at the time. Women are emotional, and that she made an impulse decision and like basically look the other way. He told the guys, what are you doing? Like, why do you keep pursuing this? She did this to herself. Like, get over it. That's enough. And I think that at the end of the day, Michael Proctor is going to look like T-ball compared to the Boston Red Sox of what Fanning's incredible negligence, his malfeasance, and potentially his collusion with the Department of Stoughton to make this go away and not be a headache for them. I also want to remind everyone that Trooper Fanning had access to thousands of text messages. Not Guarino. It was found from Sandra Birchmore's laptop. It was all in her cloud, thousands of messages and texts. And when I lined up the affidavit to the town of Stoughton report from 2022, there is the line where Matthew Farwell is admitting to a statutory rape of 15-year-old Sandra Birchmore that was heavily redacted, but by dates and the only context of Me Too at the end of the sentence, that was a response from Farwell. That lines up exactly to one of the 45 pages, I believe it's page 8 of the FBI affidavit. With that being said, there is no innocent explanation to that. They knew about it, they did nothing, and they have this blood literally on their hands, in my opinion.
That is awesome. Yeah, I have to agree with you. I don't think there is innocence or malfeasance. I think everything was done with how are we going to just think like we're in New England. We come from England, and what is England about? And Mark talks about this all the time. In England, it's function follows form. It's how everything appears is what matters, not what's actually true. It's what the appearance is. And this is exactly what these guys. We can't have a Stoughton cop, implicated for this woman's death. We got to figure out how to cover it up. We can't have a Boston cop, implicated in the death of John O'Keefe. We got to find some schmuck to pin it on. Unfortunately, the schmuck they ended up with is smarter than all of them. Peter, what is your topic, sir, this evening? Question or hypothesis? We got to get him off mute. There you go. You have to unmute, if you would, sir.
Our topic was going to be already brought up, which was going to be the Fanning situation,
Okay.
which did get addressed pretty well. I think, I think maybe that I could transition over to the crime scene investigation, which obviously brings in the Canton police to a degree. My understanding is that there were many officers on the Canton police who either were at the scene initially or who read the report, saw some crime scene photos, and basically came to a conclusion that was no way a suicide. I've had this conversation with Mizzy before, and that was right out of the jump, right out of the box. There were Canton police officers that were saying that. Yet it came to be a suicide between Fanning and the medical examiner, which I guess is another major concern that we ought to think about as far as the evidence that appeared to make it not a suicide. However, it was deemed as, the hyoid, all the many signs and symptoms, the ligatures, right? A to Z. Where do you want to go with that? And there's a plethora of stuff that anybody could comment on there. So have at it.
I will throw it around. If you are watching on YouTube right now, if you would take a moment to give us a like and a subscribe to the channel, if you'd be so kind, we'd really appreciate it. And now let's get on to somebody who got some damn expertise on this case, Miss Susanne. Home girl. How about that crime scene?
I'm humbled by the insinuation, and I'm in the presence of greatness tonight. I can't. I'm geeking out already. But what if you
Me
guys
too.
got me, DJ?
Me too. I'm geeking out every time I have these people on. So what do you think? Crime scene. I mean, there's so much there. But yeah, is there something that sticks out to you, like one aspect of it? Because what we want to do here is we want to get through the roundtable portion so we can get to open discussion. You guys can just kind of throw stuff at one another. So go ahead on that.
Well, so crime scene wise, there's a million. At this point, we all know there's a million things. But what stands out the most, we already know from the FBI's drop of how did you guys miss this? How did you miss the laundry? How did you miss the necklace? How did you miss all of those things? And didn't even take a cursory little pause, slight look away from what seemed to be a predetermined conclusion without a second look. Where was your duty to care in that regard? And I'm giving more of another rhetorical question than an answer. But these are the things that are mind blowing at this point. How did you not take a moment to consider those things? And hey, guess what? The FBI is asking that too. Like, I don't know if we can swear on this. How the F did you miss that? And why
or was it considered and disregarded for cause? That's, I think, what Kim and I are asserting here. Because
that's where I'm going with that is how did you miss this? And I would say, I want to add, just from a compassionate point of view, the flagrant disregard for a family member pointing certain facets out, such as, hey, did you guys notice the necklace here that's broken? That was part of her. That was an important detail. And the sweeping dismissal of, oh no, it's just there because the room is messy and there's hair because there's cats running around. How dare you, sir? That's where I go with that. No pause. No, I mean, not even human decency in reflecting on that being an important detail. So that's a big thing for me. And I'm sure for anyone who's read the case files.
And the necklace, the family found the necklace. And I think the Vegas cops who were on with Mark the other night said they're always going to make a mistake. And Farwell had to have missed that. He had to have been in a hurry and he had to have missed it because he wouldn't have, clearly he would have, if he would have saw that, he knew that would have been an outlier. But anyway, the crime scene, Mark, sir.
Well, I say this all the time. If people listen to me, it gets repetitive, but I get all Columbo and the famous little things, which nag, and really with a trained investigator should nag, especially when you, again, come across what appears to be a suicide. But the most basic investigation should have immediately led them to challenge that initial theory and just follow the evidence and dig deeper. And for me, it's the freaking laundry, okay? Nobody who is ever going to kill themselves, especially in a manner like that, which, not to get graphic and all of that, it takes some effort. I mean, if you believe that she would do that and would do that, particularly in the condition that she was in, knowing how excited she was to have a child and all of that. But the idea that she would make sure to change the laundry literally on the list of things to do before killing herself, ordering DoorDash, same concept, that just makes little sense to me. All the other clues that everyone else just mentioned that were missed. And if they simply kept those little things in mind, it doesn't mean they necessarily conclude that it wasn't a suicide. But if they keep more of an open mind, maybe they're a little more motivated to actually investigate rather than just sweep it aside and victim blame from what was being described by some of the other members, saying, she's just an emotional, troubled girl. And that's horrible. And the other, the medical evidence is really disturbing because anybody, unfortunately, who has any familiarity with, choking, strangulation, and whatnot understands the whole hyoid bone thing, and that's generally strangulation as opposed to a partial weight hanging, which would not do that. I mean, these are things that investigators, including the medical examiner, how do you miss that? And why is it that in all of these cases that come out of the same jurisdiction, that are supervised by the same district attorney, the same local police department, the same guys from the state police, why do they always end up having to go to the feds, who then have to put on their big boy pants and hire their own expert to figure it out? I mean, in Karen Reed, again, they had to call in the ARCA people to tell us what it is. In this case, the ARCA witness, for lack of a better term, was they had to get a separate medical examiner. This is crazy. That you shouldn't have to do that. That's insane that you can't even rely upon the medical examiner and the state police and the district attorney's office to do anything. So it's just one giant failure across the board. But to me, it all goes back to the little things. If they just paid attention to them, maybe they'd be a little more motivated to do the right thing. And the last thing is, it's extra awful because when they finally find out what happened here and what he did, if it's not bad enough that this was a young girl who joined an explorers program to learn life skills, to learn how to be a responsible young adult, how to be mentored by police officers who you're supposed to run to and trust, not get groomed, raped, killed, and then framed for your own murder, essentially, by staging a false suicide. And hearing what everyone is saying about the reaction of some of these state police guys, which is little more than just a shrug of your shoulders and saying she's just an emotional, troubled girl, who cares? This is, I mean, honestly, this is revolting. It at a whole nother level, and it's just, this is quite gross.
Yeah, and allegedly, Mark, that this lieutenant was allegedly involved in somehow marshaling or the Karen Reed jurors, and so it would beg the question, why is he involved in that when they had witnesses that were testifying on the stand that were his colleagues? I don't know if anybody can confirm that. I don't know, Peter.
I don't know. I don't touch that because I don't know if that's true. We have a problem that needs to be discussed. I just don't know if that's accurate, or I have no idea.
Fair.
If that gets
Peter,
confirmed,
please.
I would have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, Rob, please let us know, Peter, if you're able to find out if that was the case, if he was actually at the courthouse and was involved in some in some measure of dispelling or dismissing or removing those two jurors that Turtle Boy believes were pro Karen Reed jurors, and now he's talked to at least two of them. So, I mean, anyway, so let's move on. So I think we hit that. Kim, did you get to speak to that one, and we went back to the mark, or no?
No, yeah, I just would like to say just a short spiel. So as it relates to the crime scene, just bringing it back to that, is that when Trooper Dunn met Lank and McCourt at Sandra's apartment complex, he noted in a memorialized report from February 17th, 2021, like when I read through it, it stated that around in the room of her bedroom, right, that there was an Army ACU duffel bag, ACU pattern duffel bag. Now, babes, I don't know about you, but for me, that was, and it ended up being that strap that was tied around her, okay, in this alleged self-takeout. Now, Matthew Farwell and Billy Farwell are like very skilled. They were in the Army. I know that Matthew was an explosives, technician, I think from 2004 to 2008. And William was actually higher up in his Army service, and however, like as a ranking, he had even a higher one. Now, Sandra, I know, did go to basic training, or she had, enlisted in the Army, but she was not there long. She didn't make it through boot camp. A specific ACU duffel bag would have been something that, when you're looking at what you are alleging that this victim had affixed herself to a closet and a doorknob, that's important. And it's just one line in this little report. And I was just shocked that didn't spark a little bit more interest. I went down a rabbit hole, but I thought it was Army Combat Unit, but it's only Army camouflage. So potentially, depending on the digital whatever of it, like however the print
pattern,
was.
yeah.
But that was just something that stood out to me, and I thought, is this Farwell leaving a calling card, babe? You know what I mean? Like that if that was his bag or something, that just was very uncomfortable, along with her necklace, along with the 9,644 other things that did not point to Sandra Birchmore in any way, shape, or form attempting to not want to be here with her and her child in the future. Okay. And I could go into the medical examiner stuff. I won't, I'll keep it on the scene, but that was very important. And I think that everyone should try to go back and look at those Mass State Police reports if they have a chance to.
That's a great detail. And in fact, Miss Jessica NB is in the chat. She was Army EOD, and when she deployed, I think Farwell's unit supported her. That's one of the things that we were tweeting about we were DMing about on Twitter, was her Army career, and I believe one of Farwell's units supported hers. As far as the ACU business, I deployed with the Army as a civilian after I retired from the Air Force to do some work, and all the body armor I got was ACU pattern. But I will say this. I don't think she would have been able to leave basic training with any uniforms. They would have taken those. But an Army duffel bag, they'll typically take you down to go shopping at the PX or the mini PX during basic. It's so that you can buy toiletries. You can buy different items there. And she very easily could have bought an ACU duffel bag there at the PX. Because I know we did that when I was in basic. We went down there and bought swag and brought it back to the dorms. And that was stuff that after you graduated basic, you could take with you. It was your personal stuff, not issued. So it's quite possible that it was her duffel bag that she got from the BX, but it's something that we should look into, because we could ask a family member that. Did she come home with an ACU duffel bag from basic? So it's a great question. Mark, you wanted to say you had something, sir.
I'm going to add one thing. We were talking about what did they miss. They're missing one of the most obvious things. Anytime there's a suspicious death, you're looking, did anybody have an obvious motive to harm her? I mean, this is like common sense investigation 101. And I don't think you need to be a genius to figure out married man, okay, on duty police officer, full career, has kids with wife, literally one right after Sandra died. Can anyone think of a reason why perhaps a guy living that so-called, good life that he had might not want the so-called troubled girl who's giving him a hard time, is very much wants to have his baby and wants to be known, and he's did everything he did to her previously. She becomes a problem. That doesn't mean that anyone in his situation necessarily kills anyone, but how does that not jump out at you and say, that's something we have to look into and dig deep before we just, suicide this away and pat Officer Farwell on the head and say, go back to doing solid police work and have a nice life. I mean, I don't know how he doesn't become an obvious, immediate suspect that gets heavily scrutinized. And when he says, I deleted my messages, well, what did you delete? And dig and go to the FBI, go to whoever, get the information and be tenacious. And if he didn't do it, then give him a clean bill of health. But put the effort in, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, and we're getting great great comments in the chat about all these different aspects of what we're talking about. Yeah. So, I think I'm not sure what this one says here, but where is it here? Because of corruption, right? Anyway, the topic now belongs
Wait,
to.
I didn't get to talk on the subject.
Lizzie! How do we forget the principal? How do you forget Tom Brady? We're in the huddle, and I'm looking around, and like I'm ready to clap, and there's no Tom Brady. Go ahead, Tom. What's the play?
Well, somebody actually you just kind of zipped by somebody's comment that I was going to make. There's two
Sure.
a couple things. Her phone that was right by her leg. Another thing I got Fanning to admit, I specifically asked him, did her phone stop moving before he left? And he said yes. He said he thought she killed herself as he was leaving. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
also it pertains to the crime scene, but it's extended into the hallway where, the video of him coming in and out. I mean, you see that video and you could tell this guy is up to something. My other issue is with the Canton police. There were 5 officers, 4 reports that I have, and every officer has something listed differently of what was used as for the ligature. And that's a problem for the Canton Police Department. That is a huge issue. Why couldn't these officers agree on what she hung herself with if she had done that? That was one of the issues that made me say, what is wrong with this? And to kind of end my thing is the name that me and Suzanne mention this all the time, what they named the case, the blacklight case. And you know what you find with blacklight?
Oh, blood splatter, right? No.
The other thing you find with blacklight.
Peter.
Intimate.
Because they were trying to insinuate that she
clues.
was, promiscuous and stuff like that. So they had to use a blacklight in her apartment and to investigate her. So even in the title that they used to investigate her case was disparaging against her. Like we've mentioned, the necklace. There is no reason why that necklace wasn't found by there were, I believe, 4 Canton police that went in. 1 didn't really go into the crime scene, and then all the rest of the Massachusetts State Police officers that went in. None of them found that necklace, and it had to be a family member that brought it forward. That is utterly unacceptable. Somebody should have seen that necklace.
Not only is that unacceptable, but it makes it harder for the feds. I'm not saying it's going to matter. This guy's got real problems, but he's going to argue they didn't see it because it wasn't there. I mean, he's going to use that to assist his defense. So as awful as it is, now that, everyone seems to believe that this alleged monster, did this terrible thing, the either misconduct or incompetence of these initial cops actually potentially harms the case against, the real bad actor here. And it's just, they're the awful gift that keeps on giving. This is just a train wreck at every level that these guys have left.
Let's hope it's in crime scene photos so he can't, so they did get, hopefully.
It won't matter ultimately. This guy's, he's got real problems, but it's just atrocious police work and a lack of respect. And again, the only word that comes out is revolting. This whole thing makes you want to take a shower and throw up.
Yeah, it's very, very, very disturbing. And I think I want to say, so Mizzy pointed out the A side of that record about the necklace. I pointed out that that Farwell missed it, and she pointed out the more important point is that the police didn't document it, that it was found by a family member. And the other thing is, I believe, Mizzy, in Fanning's report, he was sort of alluding to the fact that she had been with other officers to make her appear more promiscuous. Was that Fanning's report?
Throughout the report, it was they were trying to make her, sound crazy, like she was a whore, a badge bunny, whatever you want to call it. And it was just basically to make her look bad. and stare it away from, these guys. And also when I've spoken to a bunch of witnesses that they've spoken to and witnesses that they never even approached. That's egregious too. There's so many witnesses, her friends, that they never even contact. What I'm finding out is the only people that they approached were the people who actually called them. They had to interview her teachers because they were the ones who reported it. So they didn't even call, like, some of her closest friends they never spoke to. That's insane. They would have been able to figure out what was going on in her life.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, you don't want to find out too much information.
Yeah.
Because then, that could lead to an officer being guilty. And I'm sure there are, like, Peter knows there are great officers in Canton and in Stoughton and in MSP. We're talking about some real idiots and people that are just criminals. They're criminals. They just happen to wear a uniform, but they're criminals. So, all right, with that, let's go to Susanne now. What would be your topic, ma'am, for Mr. Bederow?
Actually, that was a great segue, DJ. It's not my topic, but you mentioning about the good officers, and I actually raised this question with an official that I was able to meet recently, and said, okay, so you have the good officers who are trying to recover from this heinous situation and trying to make peace with it so that they can protect and serve without this dark cloud over their heads. What are what's being done to secure their mental health so that they can excel as the good guys who protect and serve? Because that's a huge problem. And so you've got the good guys who are honorable officers that want to protect and serve the right way, but how can they do that if their work is put on pause to look over their shoulders for guys who are going to retaliate against them or say, hey, remember that thing you just saw or heard, or that call that came in? No, you don't. No, you didn't. And now they're frightened. I don't want to characterize how they would react, but let's just say off balance from doing their job. We want them to feel secure. We want them to be okay doing their jobs. And the only way to do that is to have a safe atmosphere, and to ask an official in charge of these things and say, to sort of pivot back to me, what do you think? I thought, okay, I ain't the one to give that answer. I had it on good authority that you might know, sir. And they don't seem to have a solution to that. So that wasn't my topic, but since you mentioned it, my topic, apart from the issue of Fanning's assignment that day, it's about our guy, Robert Devine. And I'd love to hear Mark's input on this. As a point of fact that I don't know what to do with really is that, so Robert Devine is he's an attorney, Robert Devine Esquire. And in terms of time frame, we know that February 1st, the day that it was Sandra's last day, he communicated with her in some way. February 2nd, he swore into the bar.
Wow.
February 4th was when she was found.
Wow.
I guess I just put that question into the ether. What, if anything, does that mean? I hate to say it. What, if anything, does that mean? Is that problematic? Is that indicative of something?
What do you find from that, Mark? Wow. What, if anything?
Well, in what way? What is him being a lawyer, which is bizarre, admittedly, in this whole sick and twisted thing. I'm not sure what being a lawyer has to do with this bizarre timeline, but lawyers, when they get admitted to practice, have to pass, a character and fitness examination. I'm assuming when he filled out his application and got interviewed for that, he did not include, have been credibly accused of grooming and having inappropriate contacts with children. It's a bizarre timeline. To me though, if he just happened to get sworn in to the bar, I don't know how it works in Massachusetts, but certainly in New York, that's just a day they give you, depending on when you took the bar exam, when you passed it. And it sounds like one coincidence, and I don't know that there would be any relation about it. But as far as the other stuff, why would he be communicating with her on the day that she died? I mean, why do they have any relationship at that point after what, he had to have known was happening to her and what his buddies perhaps did. And he's how many years older than her? And, as of a couple of years ago, why would he be communicating with her at all? But I don't know what to draw from that, to be honest with you.
Well, I can tell you, Mark, that the assignment of the date to swear in, because I've got it in front of me. So it was in January that the assignment, to come in and swear in was in January. The swearing in was the day after the last contact with Sandra, but in 2 days before she was found. So those are just the, sort of the nagging questions of,
I don't know. I mean, are you suggesting that he tried to give himself kind of an alibi during this time period? I mean, I just don't know what.
Although I'm not suggesting anything other than the timeline is.
It's bothersome.
Sketchy. Yeah, no, not an alibi per se, because he communicated with her the day she died. And he just disputes it. He says, "No, I didn't. That wasn't really me. That name you have from Facebook that you think is me is really Mel Gibson." So it's just one of those nagging things that stands out. Does it mean something, or is it just another, like Nurse Kim said, another wormhole that you're diving down and can't see the light of day because you're obsessed with it,
I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know what having contact with her and then getting sworn in and then doing whatever he did. I mean, if people have busy lives. I mean, look at Farwell. He was able to pencil in his calendar, apparently, commit murder, stage it to a suicide, and, run to the hospital and hold my newborn. That's
right.
That's probably one of the most grotesque facts in this whole and sordid tale. But, I don't know. I just don't know.
Kim, do you find any serendipitous confluence of events, anything to do with Robert Devine ascension to attorney at law and his messages with Sandra?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm asking Nurse Kim.
Oh, yeah.
I think she's on mute.
I think she's frozen.
Sorry.
Oh.
Can you see me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me? Oh, I'm sorry, guys.
Got you loud and clear now, ma'am. Yep.
All right. So do I think that there is a correlation between Devine and the dates? Listen, I don't believe that anything is just a coinky dink. Okay. It does not for me in this because of all, I don't know. It just, everything can't be just, this is another one for the team, in my opinion. And I don't think that Robert Devine being a lawyer, and I've looked at his records, okay? Because it's all public record, right? His practice is in Easton, right, guys? So, he, I was looking at his court filings and what, of his LLC, and I'm just like, it was just a very interesting transition that he made. He made it at a very interesting time. Is it related? Do we know? No, but I would say that for myself, just seeing everything, I have a skeptical eye with it all now, in my opinion.
That totally makes sense. There's just really weird thing. They're very, very bothersome coincidences in this case. Well, in the case of holding the baby, it's not a coincidence, but in this case, I think it's very coincidental. Mark, do you
holding
have a
the
topic?
baby DJ? Oh, I'm so sorry, but holding the baby DJ in the same sweatshirt.
Yeah, that he killed. I know. I mean, this dude he's a monster. I mean, you guys have described him aptly on different shows. I've heard you and Mark and other people, Mizzy described this guy. He really is a monster, and people freak out. They're like, man, this guy was on the street. Can you imagine what he could have done to another innocent person that just said or did the wrong thing? It's very scary.
Opportunity. You groom them. You're there. You're supposed to be mentoring them. And I mean, they come right in. I mean, these are kids looking to be with cops, and they respect cops, and the cops are supposed to train them. I mean, it's worse than anything. I mean, it is, but this is also part of the, if you deal with sex abuse and exploitation of children, that's part of the grooming stuff. If you have a credible position and role that people look up to, that's easy. I mean, you can lure them in because you're in a position of trust, or you're supposed to be. And it's all just sickening. But yeah, I mean, it's not surprising at all that it would happen in something like an Explorers program, because these kids are looking and want to trust the cops, and it's the exact opposite.
I want to just say further, it's happened in my organization, in the military. It's happened between senior enlisted and junior enlisted. It has happened between company grade officers and junior enlisted, and those people end up out of the service or in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. So it doesn't only happen there. It just, police are very, I had a conversation with somebody today. Police, even a town police officer like Peter was, is very, very powerful. A 4-star general drives off base wearing a golf shirt, slacks, and a sports jacket. A town police officer can take away his freedom just like that in a traffic stop for any reason that they choose. A 4-star general has no power off of a base. But even a town police officer, not to mention a state police officer or somebody at that level, or someone at the federal level, there's an enormous amount of power that it takes a certain type of mindset like Peter to corral that ego and just keep it in check so that you don't overstep your boundary. And if someone has criminal proclivities, it doesn't take long to figure out, hey, I can enforce the law, but I can break the law whenever I want to. And then obviously we're seeing that happen. For somebody in the chat that mentioned that, I want to say that real quick. That is, are you serious? I want to say that this is not a Massachusetts thing. The one party state and the political stuff has nothing to do with it. This has happened in North Carolina. This has happened in Florida. This has happened extensively in my home state of New York, and particularly New York City. Mark and I have discussed several incidents in New York City. This has happened in South Carolina. There are many states.
Chief's phone yesterday in New York City. I mean, literally, the chief of the NYPD or commissioner had his phone. I mean, it's as part of an investigation into alleged corruption that may or may not involve people close to Eric Adams, who's the mayor of New York City. So it happens everywhere. But it's also important when somebody says our cops are bad. You can't be that broad stroke. No. It's not fair to good cops, including one who's on this panel.
Even while this may be true, there's Peter Murphy's and Sean McDonough's and Javier Vasquez's and those two gentlemen, Gonzo, and I can't remember the other gentleman from Vegas. Awesome police officers. So anyway, all right. So Mizzy, did you want to react to your buddy Susanne's, your colleague's topic?
I just think it's absolutely disturbing that he's still a lawyer and practicing. To me, it's inappropriate that this man is able to practice as a lawyer.
It's not good for business, I can tell you that. Law. I mean, I don't know what kind of law he practices, but getting clients with being wrapped up in this is probably not the best business model.
The problem with that is, there's a lot of people now after what happened last week, people are hearing names, but his name isn't really being bounced around with it. It's mostly Matthew. So, we do a lot of standouts in Stoughton. Like, we've done one almost every month and down at the town square. And there's so many people that don't even realize that Sandra Birchmore is from Stoughton. They think that she's that Canton girl that got murdered. So he's getting to represent people from in an area that people don't even know that he's even a part of this case. And that's what I find disturbing, that like he's able to operate with nobody really knowing what he did to Sandra Birchmore, because he is part of this. He was part of the grooming. He did abuse Sandra. I mean, he was having activities in cars with Sandra and clandestine meetups with Sandra. He was part of the abuse of Sandra, and like I said before, he did groom the boys. They were little scumbags when they were a little young too, but he did take them under his wing. Someone that Robert Devine specifically groomed himself, who was in the class with these boys, is the one who said it. He was grooming them too. So this guy, to me, it's just astounding that he is able to still operate as a lawyer.
Well,
They
I mean,
learn
the
from
way
the best.
and I'm not defending him. Let me be clear. I'm just being the lawyer. He's not charged with anything at the moment. He's not formally accused of anything. And the way the system is he enjoys a presumption of innocence the same way Farwell does. And that's a hard concept, but clearly if he gets implicated officially in any of this, and it doesn't even mean indicted by the feds, but just somehow gets publicly linked to this, then, he's going to have problems with his law license and business and whatnot. But I mean, it's up to any individual if they want to hire him. I assume if they Google him, they see all kinds of unpleasant things. This certainly doesn't help that for him, I imagine, these kinds of forums. But, even a guy like that, until he's formally accused or whatever, is going to earn his livelihood the same way Farwell was until a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, was literally driving a truck until they told me he had been arrested in New Mexico, apparently. But, whatever will happen, that was a joke, obviously, but whatever will happen to Devine will happen or it won't. But if he gets publicly linked to this, there will be disciplinary proceedings. And of course, if you ultimately are convicted of a felony, that's automatic disbarment. I mean, there's a process for that, but you'll have disciplinary problems if you're mixed up in a child grooming investigation that ultimately results in your buddy, being accused of murdering an innocent young woman.
And as far as clients, Mizzy, I don't think my miniature pincher mix, Athena, I don't think she would hire Devine. So I don't think he's in danger of getting any new clients. Peter, any
Oh no, he
thoughts
does.
on-
Hold on a second. Susie,
He does have new
something
clients.
about
He does have.
What's that?
He does have clients. Yeah.
What kind
beyond
of
Athena? Yeah.
What is
Um,
this?
he's representing estate law and wrongful termination, and
Oh.
tort. He specializes in tort law, which is ironically what he's.
Yeah, that's quite cute.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Athena has already barked that she would not hire him. So I just want to say, if she wants to say that for the record, I want to record that. Madam
Same.
Court Reporter. So anyway,
Same, Athena. Same.
Peter, anything on Robert Devine?
I would just, I guess, like to suggest or submit that I got to believe, and I do believe totally in the effectiveness and the efficiency of the feds. I'd go out on a limb and speculate that they either came into town on a case that was prior to the Sandra Birchmore case, or that brought them to the Norfolk County. And I believe that they've got, whatever Levy said the other day, he's got 125 or 150 agents working out of that office on various cases. And I think it would be very doubtful if they don't have 100% of what they need on this case to bring pretty much everybody to justice. And I'm sure when they made that grab the other day, not the one in New Mexico, the one in Revere, I'm sure that the wires and the chatter was just absolutely deafening, and that they gathered and garnished a bunch more of information and targets. And would I go out on a limb and do the over under that there's going to be arrests this week? I'd speculate there will be, probably at least one more, maybe two more. And
Wow.
I have no receipts for that. So please don't go to the bank with that. The check will bounce, but I really think that there's a lot more coming out of this very soon. I don't think they're gonna, as you know, we've all indicated, this is a horrific case. And if you read those 45 pages, you're looking for help. You're looking for medication if they're so bad. And I don't think the feds are gonna let this go away anytime soon. As a matter of fact, I think they're gonna put an end to it mighty fast.
Oh God, Lord, hear our prayer. I say that every time we talk about these cases where we're in need of justice. Mark, what do you have something that we can chew on the topic?
Well, how long? And this is not meant. That's not a joke. Not hostile.
How long till Jen gets arrested?
I'm not even. How long before they clean house? Whether it's in the DA's office out there, the state police unit, which lives in the DA's office and works hand in hand with the DA's office, whether it even extends to the Canton police. How much more are the people who live out there supposed to take and have such little confidence in what the local cops are doing, what the state police are doing, what the district attorney is doing in case after case, that they just seem completely incapable of investigating with any serious interest in the truth for one reason or another. And, you know, I know they have a, new colonel coming in, whatever that really means or doesn't mean, I don't know. But I mean, you have this arrangement where the state police guys are living in the DA's office for all intents and purposes. They're all buddy. They're eating lunch together. They're hanging out with the DAs. It's just one big incestuous law enforcement situation out there. And you can't have that because that leads to corruption in many different forms. It doesn't have to be the kind of corruption that may lead to somebody shuffling and sprinkling taillight pieces all over the lawn, which is an extreme form of corruption, if you believe that. But little things, letting things slide, like you see perhaps in this case, not being careful, not looking under every rock because you don't want to upset your buddies or you don't want to do this. You dig deeper and you see a lot of these people in the state police, they donate to the DA. People in the DA's off financially donate. They're beholden to each other. There's an unhealthy relationship there. It breeds corruption. And corruption can be in the littlest forms, okay? It can be, another example from the other case, it can be not saying we can't use a video that's clearly been flipped around and not proper because I don't want to get this guy in trouble because he's my friend. Those kinds of things. And it's just, it goes on in all of these big cases. Nobody out there seems to do anything about it. And are there going to be lessons learned? And something that I wasn't aware of today and listening to some of the things, Mizzy, that you were talking about your conversations with Fanning or whatever. The other problem in this culture, if you will, is the misogyny. You look what's going on here, and you have Fanning, who is, victim blaming and victim shaming a probably murdered young woman. Okay. Either way, even if you believe she took her own life, how are you just not more sympathetic to the horror show that she went through that would have led her to do that? I mean, she's a victim in every sense of the word, and anyone with a police officer above and beyond anyone else should have some degree of respect for her and her family. And so you say, but they're calling her promiscuous, they're telling you these things, and then you sit there and you say, oh yeah, let me go back to that other big case and say, go back to the text messages about these are the kind of guys who would talk like that, right? Who send their bros these messages about saying terrible things about women. Nobody's getting upset. Nobody's telling them to stop. And this is the culture of the Norfolk State Police people. And at what point is enough enough? And you fumigate it. You just, you blow it up enough, get them out of there. Because they're either incompetent on these cases or worse. And neither one of those is acceptable, right? I mean, this is a shit show either way, and people deserve better. And it just keeps happening. And how can anyone have any confidence in what they're doing? And to go back to something Susanne was then saying, which is, and then the people who lose in this are the good cops. And they're the ones that get demoralized because they take the heat for the crappy cops. And then you get people who say, I hate the cops. They all suck. They're all bad. That's totally untrue. But you see it again and again, what's going on there. You can understand why people feel like that. And then it demoralizes the cops. Then good cops don't want to stay. They go. New ones who, you'd want to become cops don't come in. So the competence gets even worse. And it just it's awful. And just how much more of this? I don't know what else can be done. I don't know if this colonel has any real power, but you need a new district attorney. You need new troopers. You need new police officers in these towns. And ultimately, nothing's ever going to change if the people who live there don't vote and make it happen.
Yeah, apparently one of my awesome teammates from Dean was Colonel Mon's roommate when they were young cops. So yeah, we spoke a little bit about him. Nurse Kim, when's the other shoe going to drop? Do you think that there's going to be some sort of accountability? How do you see that framing up, ma'am?
Yeah, I hope that there is accountability. I do still have faith in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that we need to make this right. Okay. And I am not a constituent of Norfolk County, but I would just like to kind of say that I've heard a narrative, and we've seen this narrative with an old school way of thinking. And this is I know that it does not only happen in Massachusetts. I get that, guys. But remember, we're the first, right? We're the pilgrims, babes. So like we are the head of this, and we were the first of the 50 states and of the 13 colonies. I mean, let's go all the way back, but it has been troublesome. This is decades in the making. This is not something that happened overnight. This was insidious. This was pervasive, and it goes through many levels. The most concerning for me, though, is this narrative that Sandra is, damaged by. She was a damaged person. This is why this happened to her. And I'm going to say this loud, and I've said it on every one of my shows, but I'm not going to stop saying it. It is that damage was done to Sandra Birchmore. Sandra Birchmore was not damaged. Okay? Are you picking up what I'm putting down, everyone? Because
she was not born damaged.
She was not. It was nurture, not nature. Done to her. Yeah. And this is something that kind of gets lost in the sauce somehow. And I don't know if it's like a male versus female situation, but of course, Attorney Bederow is incredible, and he is just saying all of that. But I just wanted to say that when predators sink their teeth into our vulnerable children, and that's what it is, guys, okay, is that predators grooming and predatory behavior happens, and let's just say perpetrators are going to look for a specific demographic. They are going to smell the weakness of whatever it is, a self-esteem, maybe not a two-home household. And it doesn't mean that you, as a child or as a family and a functioning unit, if you're a single parent, you're fine. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. We just want to let you know that, there are people that are sick and twisted in this world. Just watch out for our children, watch out for each other. And I pray that the end is near, and that Norfolk DA's office is, burn it all down in not the actual place, but, just burn it all down and start from the beginning again. Yeah.
Well, can we just evacuate the building first, Kim, and
Of
then
course,
we
of
convert?
course.
Yeah, just
No burning. No burning.
No.
Metaphorical.
Okay, no burning.
Metaphorical.
Yeah,
Allegedly.
metaphorical burning. Okay. Perhaps an axe handle, and I don't know. Anyway, and to what Mark said, I just want to say I just took the DoD ethics course, and you absolutely cannot give gifts to your supervisor or donations. You cannot do that. That is a huge no-no. In fact, at Christmas time, they're limited to like a $10 gift among like colleagues, and then there's a limit. Like if you have 3 or 4 people get a gift, but that is it, man. You cannot be making donations to your supervisor like these idiots are to Morrissey. Sorry. Anyway, I digress.
All right, I'm not getting you anything for Christmas, Mark. No.
Yeah.
Hey, we're not public servants, so
Okay, I will.
Right.
Give me anything you want for Christmas. See, we're bring it.
Yeah, and Cullinane, you can't get anything for Minahan for Christmas, just so you know. All right, so David has a question here. David, thank you very much for the donation. If you have a question and you also have a blessing for us, that's awesome. And if you don't, we're still going to try to get to it. Mark, if the feds take over for, say, Canton Police Department, can or will the use of polygraphs be used basically to help eliminate corruption? I could answer that one, but go ahead.
Feds do polygraphs. I mean, they're not admissible in court, as everyone knows, but the FBI absolutely uses polygraphs, both internally if there are issues, or in sometimes trying to determine whether someone's being credible. A polygraph is, as many people know, it's not a lie detector. I know that's the colloquial. They detect deception or a lack thereof, but they're all dependent upon the critical questions being asked, and whether they're clear, and they only ask about 3 pertinent questions. Some people rely on them, some don't, but if the feds were coming in to try to figure out who's good, who's bad, yeah, they could definitely do that for sure.
Every single FBI agent goes through a federal polygraph. Every single Customs and Border Protection, Customs and Border Patrol agent gets a polygraph. And of course, in the Department of Defense, it's a TSSCI. And if you go to, there's one step above that, is a polygraph level for certain positions that go even beyond sensitive compartmented information. For Mark, thank you, Romy, again, my homie. Thank you so much. For Mr. Mark Bederow, can you talk about the filing regarding Proctor's electronic data? I don't understand the Norfolk DA's office gets to decide what's turned over.
Well, people need to understand how Brady works, and it's offensive because there appears to be a track record in this particular county of maybe not being diligent in turning over discoverable or exculpatory evidence. But this is the way the system works. There is not a working presumption that prosecutors are unethical or engage in malpractice, and the way the system survives is that the presumption is the exact opposite, that they are going to do what they're supposed to do. And whether you want to believe that or not, given these people, that's how Brady works. You are relying upon them in the first instance to disclose what they are supposed to turn over. And of course, the risk if they don't, and you later determine that they withheld or suppressed, is what the word lawyers would use, favorable evidence that was in their possession, custody, or control. Evidence gets suppressed, convictions get reversed, prosecutors get brought up on, in front of disciplinary proceedings, or worse, depending on, how bad it is. The extreme example is Wendy Murphy's friend, Mike Nifong, the former DA of Durham, North Carolina, who actually went to jail because he suppressed, biological evidence, which would have helped clear the Duke lacrosse players. But as far as Proctor, so they already have his private phone text messages, and they're going to have to, most likely, any of the bad ones, turn those over. They certainly adversely impact his credibility, which also is considered exculpatory. So the trick now becomes, well, what about the work phone and the disclosure they made yesterday? So the first thing that's going to trigger everyone is the extraction reports that they got were done by the state police. So before you even get to how wonderful the DA's office is, here you are again. Do you trust, Guarino and these other guys who screwed up the extractions, and Karen Reed, who probably screwed up the extractions in this case that we're talking about tonight, and other cases down the line, which I'm sure will be discussed. Did they do that right? And then do you trust the Norfolk DA to turn over what they're supposed to? And most people will say no, but no judge is going to literally say, I want to inspect these in camera and I'll determine what's going to be turned over without more. They're just not going to do it. So you're going to be stuck with them trying to figure it out. Now, one of the things they kind of snuck in their letter was this idea we're considering hiring an outside company to help us do that. At first blush, that sounds like a good thing, but I look at it a different way and say, are you people really morons to this level where you need help from an outside agency to look at this data and tell you what your ethical responsibilities are in disclosing favorable evidence? It's not that complicated, because what you can always do is err on the side of disclosure, which is what you're supposed to do. Now, last point on this, you don't just get his whole phone. It doesn't work that way. They have a fair point about confidential investigative stuff that you don't get to see. If there are, horrible autopsy photos of a murder victim that has nothing to do, that shouldn't be disclosed. If there are names and stuff about confidential informants in cases who've done nothing wrong, that stuff shouldn't be disclosed. But in terms of having any confidence that they're going to turn over what they're supposed to, it's hard to do that when they're saying we may actually seek outside help to help us do that. I mean, that's just remarkable to me.
They're really good at BSing people who are super naive. Hey, Siobhan, I saw your question for Peter. We are going to get to that question. We want to get through the roundtable, so let the roundtable portion of this. So let's sort of pick up the pace. We have 25 minutes till Turtle Boy takes over the airwaves, and we'll all be tuned into Turtle Boy. So I think Kim, did you get to? Let me see. The last person went was Kim. It was Mark's topic, right?
Yep.
So it goes to Mizzy, right?
I was the first one, so.
Oh, you were? I thought it was Mark's topic.
Oh, that was Mark's topic, but you
Okay,
mean now?
Did you get to comment on that, Kim?
She didn't comment.
I did. No,
Okay,
I
I'm
already
sorry, ma'am,
commented.
please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please, Nurse Kim.
Oh, wait. So I'm going to go, or is Mizzy going to comment?
No, I believe I didn't know if you got to comment on Mark's topic. It turned into more of a statement than a topic. But if you want to extract something from that, like Proctor's cell phone, go ahead.
Nope.
All right, go ahead, Missy.
Well, mine's to kind of go along with what Kim said. People got to understand that at 12 into 13, Sandra was groomed, defiled, disrespected, disregarded, coerced by these disgusting men, and ultimately murdered by one of them. But she was also discarded, disrespected by the investigators who should have looked out for her and taken care of her. And they all end up being police officers. So on both ends of it, the police didn't take care of Sandra when they should have been the ones who took care of her the most. So I'll just say that. Yeah.
It's the mindset. We kind of try to get into the mindset, the hubris, what is the genesis of where people go, I can do this and I can get away with it and nobody's going to hold me to account for it. That, I think, literally, we could probably do a good 30 minutes on that topic. But did you have any commentary on what Mark brought out, Peter?
on what the phone disclosure was the other day?
Now on fumigating the
Fumigating.
from top to bottom, all of the cast of characters who just do this apparently again and again, and it's like Groundhog Day on these investigations. It's just awful.
Just I concur with that, and I've been advocating that. I've been talking to a lot of people, including on many of the Canton media sites, Mark, receivership. I mean, at some point, I know for a fact that the town of Canton residents, many of them are talking about moving out of town. They said, this is just horrible. We don't trust our police department. We're almost afraid to dial 911.
Unreal.
It's a culture that, and believe me, I'm not painting the Department of Canton Police Department with a wide brush, but there's an inherent problem there. And with some people apparently, and obviously with the DA's office and the state police. And I mean, one example would be, look at Mon has been in office as the acting colonel for what, 18 months? Now suddenly they're going to bring in this gentleman from New Jersey. I have not vetted him yet. I know I'll use his name. Howie Carr has looked at it and said he's got concerns, but I think, again, I mentioned it, a fish rots from the head down. You've got to start at the top. You've got to start with the select board. You've got to start with the governor. You've got to start somewhere, and you've got to work down and vet these people. And, unfortunately, the good cops can't say anything because their career will be over for all intents and purposes, and they could be even hunted. And I mean, I've been told, just for my speaking out, to stay out of Canton because it's a target on my back, whatever that means. So it's tough. I'll leave it at that.
That really makes me sad. Susanne, do you have sort of in The Godfather 1, I think it was, the little thing of insecticide that the Corleone child, as Don Corleone had a heart attack? Do you have something like that you could use on the Norfolk County District Attorney?
Well, I'm going to err on the side of my optimism and naivete as far as maybe getting some help and support for the officers that are already in these systems. Because, to Peter's point, and maybe I mentioned it earlier, if the good officers are tormented by the bad officers and they're in fear of retaliation, and they're looking over their shoulders for that danger instead of the danger in the community, then how can they function? It's not the fault of the honorable protect and serve, but what systems are in place to help them. I mean, again, my pie in the sky idea of, sort of intervention, within the departments and outside agencies, maybe some that are civilian instead of other cops helping cops already there. I mean, I don't want to use the word incestuous about fixing a problem, but it's already a problem that the cops are investigating other cops. We already saw that didn't work out very well. So maybe some civilian oversight, some therapy. Again, I'm not the person to decide these things. That's why I'm baffled when I'm having these conversations with those who are expert, allegedly, in these things. Isn't there a task force that may come in to assist in a crisis-addled situation such as Stoughton and Canton are in at this point?
Yeah. That's a beautiful take on it, and maybe it will take, an outside agency. And I think that's what Peter's kind of aiming for with his initiatives. And relative to the new, believe it or not, the New York State Police, New York State Trooper Colonel is a classmate of mine from high school. So I'm going to see if he knows who this gentleman is from New Jersey. It's possible they've been at symposiums together or formal schools. Some of these guys even go to some of the senior officer schools like at Annapolis and so forth. there are state police that get to go to those leadership schools, and the names of them are escaping me, but I know that some police get to go to those.
Well, how about it's
So
already
I'll do
positive that he's
yeah.
bringing in some different, like he's not biased by the same players in the same state. So there's already optimism in that it's not his
Sure.
golf buddies that he's, coming in to it. It's overwhelming how much everybody is all together, how much is the same people over and over and over again.
Yes.
So some change obviously needs to occur. And I'm piggybacking off of a point Mark made that's not even relevant to what you asked me, but about the cell phone issue and all of that. With Proctor, it's going to be eclipsed by what we're going to find in the case that we're talking about right now. It's another one of those sort of, okay, you were upset and disgusted and horrified about what was being said by Proctor on the stand. You better be sitting down for what you're going to hear that's coming out of Fanning's his knowledge from this case, because it's going to be horrendous. I mean, the conversations leading up to Matthew Farwell's arrest, there were incidents where there were things being discussed about joking about how Sandra was found. There is no depth to describe exactly how terrible these communications are.
And did they ever think about maybe choosing a couple of troopers to investigate the case that weren't former Stoughton cops? Did that ever occur to anybody from an ethical standpoint? Probably not.
That's a really big question for that issue. I mean, you don't even take pause if you hear your buddy talking about this deceased girl in a joking manner. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's but they don't, as Mark's pointed out on many occasions, they don't feel shame. They don't self-reflect, and they don't. Ethics is not a consideration. And what's right and what's legal, ethical, moral are not considerations for these people, and that's where the hubris comes in. We don't need to care about that. That's not something we worry about. That's something you worry about. You people out there, we don't worry about that because we got each other's back.
Well, that's the laziness and arrogance, and that leads to corruption at some point. I mean, it's not unique in any situation where you get the same people in power. They get lazy, they get comfortable, and they just get arrogant, and then things just slide. I mean, I say this all the time, but what you see in Norfolk County is exactly what happened in Brooklyn, New York, when Charles Hines was DA, and it ended with him being under federal investigation and finally getting tossed out and being the poster child of a wrongful conviction crisis related to their suppression of evidence and terrible work and that kind of thing. And the similarities with what you're seeing, Norfolk's not like as far along in that story, but it's just strikingly similar.
And it's going to be a great diet program for Morrissey if that happens to him. But we only have 14 minutes left, so we need to blast through Nurse Kim's topic, and we have a question from Siobhan. I don't know if Siobhan's from Ireland, but I love it. It's a completely Irish name. This one right here. So we're going to have to get to, where is Siobhan? Oh boy, there it is. We're going to get to this question for you, Peter. But let's get through Nurse. So let's keep this very succinct and brief in response to the brilliant, the one and only Nurse Kim's topic. Can I get an amen?
Amen. Okay. So I just wanted to say that on February 9th, Matthew Farwell allowed his phone, he gave his consent for his cell phone, the iPhone 11, to Trooper Fanning. Okay. Also in the memo, guys, where he wrote, what this is pertaining to, he wrote in the death investigation of Sandra Birchmore, but at the bottom he wrote suicide right underneath. On February 9th, babes, why is Matthew Farwell being a medical examiner or determining a cause of death in Sandra Birchmore, where he is an alleged witness at this time. It just rubs me the wrong way. I don't like his handwriting, anything about it. And then this goes into the next. Patrick Hanley was the attorney for Matthew Farwell initially. He composed this letter from their law firm, Butters and Brazilian, and they refused to do a DNA test, refused a polygraph. We know all of that. Now, I have a question because Trooper Fanning said that Hanley was known to him, not like in his reports. It says Hanley is known to me and the representation for Matthew Farwell. So, babes, I end up doing some research. We know that he's at Butters and Brazilian, but they are the sponsors for Mass State Police. And I was wondering if there is any kind of, I don't know, appearance of impropriety, or is there something that perhaps if this is an agency that is representing the union of Mass State Police and they are involved in these galas every year, they've been representing them for years now, is there something that like maybe Hanley shouldn't be writing letters for a defendant in a criminal investigation that is being investigated by his own brothers, if they're the union's representative? Do you know what I'm saying? Okay, that was a lot, but I'm trying to go with, is there a conflict for a union attorney and union law firm to represent someone being prosecuted by said union for a crime? Peter Murphy and Mark Bederow only. Go ahead.
Hold on. Before Mark answers that question, I want to add on to hers because it's very Williams lawyers are from Morrissey's old firm. So that's conflict of interest, and Williams' old lawyer who just quit showed up at Morrissey's what was it? The party that he had fundraiser party a few weeks ago. That's a conflict of interest. And in the memo, one of the people who donated to Morrissey said Boyle, instead of saying Boyle and Shaughnessy, they said Boyle and Morrissey. Take it away, Mark Bederow.
Well, the obvious answer is, I mean, forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown. This is how we do it here. The current situation, if I understand it correctly, what Kim is talking about, this is troubling. So if that law firm, which doesn't sound like a law firm name, it sounds like a cafe name or something,
Right.
Butters and Brazilian,
Right in the Back Bay, babes. You know what I mean? Like, we'll go to Butters and Brazilian for lunch.
or I don't know. It sounds like a muffin and a wax. I don't know. Anyway, just sorry,
We're getting wild. We're getting wild now.
In my head.
Yeah, we're getting punchy. No, look, if that law firm that represents the state police, then that's their client, okay? And if they are now representing someone who is under investigation by their client, there is clearly a potential conflict here because you have duties of loyalty and confidentiality to all your clients. And when you run into situations where interests of different clients could conflict, like here, then the question becomes, is the conflict avoidable? Is it waivable? In this situation, I'm not sure how you could do that. The idea that this law firm is representing and gets a lot of business from the state police, and then they're representing someone who's under investigation. On top of that conflict, the client that they're representing, the individual that you're talking about, he probably wants to waive the client because he thinks the police are going to give me kid gloves. So beyond the legal mumbo jumbo amongst the possible conflict of the firm, we're right back to just the public perception of the cesspool that exists in Norfolk County law enforcement. I mean, that it's just awful. It makes no sense. You know, when you start talking about, well, we're going to hire, in the other situation that Mizzy's talking about, let's hire, you know, Morrissey's old firm. It looks terrible. It looks like something's going on. It's not necessarily literally a conflict. I mean, but it would appear to be no coincidence either. You know, you think you're going to get special treatment and you're going to get access. And the problem in this county is who's giving these people the benefit of the doubt? I mean, look at what they do. Look at how they conduct themselves. Look how they just don't appear to do the right thing for whatever reason. And it's just part of the whole incestuous relationships that exist out there. And it's awful. It's gross. And it goes back to the point earlier. You got to get new people. You've got to fumigate the whole place. And just, it's awful. How does anyone have any confidence in what's happening here when they're all, you know, glad handing and related in some capacity, whether it's by employment, friendship, partnership in a law firm? It's too incestuous.
Yeah, it's like, isn't it like Judge Bev's dad or Judge Bev's husband or something represented like Chris Albert in that vehicular homicide, leaving the scene of an accident thing? So yeah, it's just, you'd say, oh, well, gee, I can't do this case then because there's a connection to Chris Albert, who's a brother of one of the, you know, the witnesses. But
that one's a little trickier. It looks bad, but that, you know, that's a possible or maybe apparent or an appearance of a conflict. It certainly doesn't look good, no question. But it's getting a little far afield. But this thing about representing the state police and representing the guy that the state police are coming after is just, you know, I mean, look, anytime you get hired by someone, you do, you know, a conflicts check. You have to always try to avoid getting stuck in multiple things. And any credible law firm that deals with things would say, when this guy wants to hire you, you'd say, look, we represent the state police union. We can't go against that. And it also raises questions once again about the state police. I mean, why would you want, if you're an existing client, that someone mixed up in this horrible, you know, case that involves committing terrible crimes against an innocent child and eventually young woman, why would the state police union be okay with that? You know, that's the kind of thing where the client would say, I'm not going to waive that conflict. We don't represent those kind of people. But forget.
I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I said, forget it, Jake. That's how they do it.
Yeah, I was going to say that I heard FBI agents say the other day, if they're going to engage in the financial crimes unit, if they have any stock in that company, any of their portfolios, if they even have a mutual fund, and that company that they're going to investigate, they immediately have to get rid of. They got to make sure they got to fill out forms before these investigations and make sure there's no conflict, but it doesn't exist. Peter, did you want to comment on that? Because we're got about 4 minutes and we have a question for you. I want to get everybody out of here on the hour. What would you like to comment on that? What Nurse Kim brilliantly investigated there?
I would agree brilliantly, and I would also submit that Attorney Mark Bederow covered it eloquently from A to Z. So I'll yield to the next person. You're short on time. There isn't much I could say that wasn't covered. Thank you.
He's smart. That guy.
Smart and pretty.
Smart, wicked smart.
Well, you know, there could be the Fredo Corleone there, right? Remember, Mark? I'm smart. I'm not dumb like everybody says. So anyway.
Anytime you work, that's 2 Godfathers in 20 minutes. That's impressive.
That's it. That's because we boys, man. All right. So anyway, we got to get to this question for Peter Murphy because Kim basically posed that question to Attorney Bederow and Peter. And I want to get you guys out of here because Turtle Boy is coming up in 3 minutes. So this question is for you, Mr. Murphy. Maybe Nurse Kim can read it for us. No? Maybe?
Sorry, Siobhan Mannion says for $9.99. Thank you, Siobhan. I made a post today about Frank Serpico. Just wondering from Peter if new young police officers get pressured or are encouraged to stay quiet if they see things they don't agree with. What do you think, Peter Murphy? Oh, on mute, Bub.
Sorry. Yep. There we go. I would say yes, 100%. There is a culture. We've all addressed it in various forms and statements tonight and on other meetings, roundtables. There is a culture, and it's got to be corrected at the top down. And it's new trainees, new boots on the ground. They're brought in. They are field trained. They ride with different officers on different shifts, and it's ingrained. And sometimes it's subliminal, and you don't even know that you're indoctrinating somebody into a mindset, but it can be there. And I think training, it's nothing that we've really brought up, but I think training is a huge concern in all these departments, and not just Massachusetts. They've got to do a better job at it, do a better job of vetting the people that are coming into the job, why they're coming in. And you've got to get, you just got to find out who you're giving a badge and a gun to.
Peter, as a young officer, had you ever had a senior officer try to get you to do something that you were uncomfortable from a legal, moral, or ethical perspective? Had anyone ever tried to see if you'd play ball?
Nobody tried me. I think everybody knew my position, and I don't think they came to me with any of that baloney. I think they knew to stay away from me with that. I wouldn't doubt that they tried other new recruits. I don't know. I mean, I know these guys are pretty, some of these guys, and believe me, I'm not painting the brush on wide on any of these departments, but there are a few bad apples, and they are careful on how they present the concept that they're trying to deliver to the new recruits or whatever. So it's just the way it is. And again, it's training, it's accountability, it's top-down discipline, and it's got to work. It's a paramilitary operation. You can't run it like a country club.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And they didn't see fit to try Peter because they probably knew they would be rebuffed. Mavis, thank you so very much. Thank you so much for the blessing and the donation. And I believe there's one more here. Siobhan had one more thing to say. That is a female name. And she says, I am Irish. I listened a Cranberry song today and it reminded me of Mark. Zombies.
Zombies. Yeah.
Listen,
What's up to Mark Bederow? And
don't
thank you so
value
much.
your credibility and don't care. That's very dangerous for a prosecutor or police officer. That's a zombie.
It's working so well for them. I would love to say, Mike Morrissey, could you please define the word? Just finish the sentence. Shame is ... and see what his answer is. That would be brilliant. Or Adam Lally or any of those guys. All right, so I want to say goodbye. I want to start with Miss Susanne. It's the first time I got to meet you. It was an honor to meet you and hear your analysis and how passionate you were. So I'm hoping you're going to come on again. So thank you so much. It was such a pleasure having you. Namaste.
Thank you so much. And you know what? I got to real quick shout out to the outstanding men on this panel. The topics that we're talking about right now just happen to largely affect women and the framing, blaming, shaming of women. And hats off to all three of you gentlemen for being gentlemen, for being there for us and providing a protective role, like for real. Love that about you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't want to put myself in the category of Peter Murphy or Mark Bederow, but thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Mark,
for that, Suzanne.
Absolutely. We can't wait. We're definitely going to have you on again. So I'll definitely message you to try to schedule you on here. But before that, NBA premier Celtics fan, we got to have a little NBA dialogue. So thanks for doing this, Mark.
Thank you. Glad to help.
Appreciate it, brother. Nurse Kim, what can we say about you that hasn't already been said? My dear.
Not a thing. I just wanted to say before I leave that I always appreciate you having me on, DJ. It's a wonderful space. Peter Murphy, you're everything. Mark Bederow, you're my best friend from out of town. And Susanne and Mizzy, you are the stars. I'm so sorry I talked too much because we should have heard more, I think, from you guys. But we appreciate you and we love you for your fighting for Sandra and for justice.
It ain't the last time you're gonna see these ladies. There's gonna be a lot of more. But Nurse Kim, I just want to say, so that episode I want people to check out is a solo episode that Nurse Kim did a few days ago, and that I put out on Twitter. I may have put it out on Monday. I can't remember, as I've been so busy. But to do an hour or 2 hour episode solo and be that succinct and that well researched. And then she wonders why I praise her on DM. Why I do that. That's the reason why. So check out that solo Nurse Kim episode. Peter, yes, ma'am. Peter Murphy, thank you, brother. It was great to get to speak with you this week and kick things around. And thank you so much for being my friend and donating your time to the show.
I appreciate being here. I try to share as much as I can, and I can thank you sincerely. I think you do a great job. You look at the roundtable of people and personnel that you brought on several times in the recent weeks. Mark, Nurse Kim, Susanne now, Mizzy. It's just you do a great job. You bring a full spectrum of talent, and you're to be commended. And everybody on this roundtable tonight did an awesome job, except maybe me, but you guys did.
No, you always do an awesome job. And if you think it's cool, like seeing Peter on here, it's even more cool talking to him on the phone. He's just such a positive person. I would have loved to have been a junior officer training under Peter. That would have been awesome. Mizzy and the Hizzy, thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am. I appreciate you coming on and bringing Susanne to us and being able to talk about Sandra. And one down, more than 2 to go, but maybe 3 to go, with the animal control officer. Maybe we can drag his ass into this.
Yeah, thank you for having all of us here to talk about Sandra's case. It's imperative that we keep talking about her, that we don't let it go back under, a rug where they tried to hide it. You brought a great panel together, and I appreciate you bringing us all here to talk about Sandra. And thank you, everybody who watched us tonight, because we need you to spread the word and come join us on. You can go to sandrabirchmore.com and find everywhere to find us.
It will be in the show notes to this episode. I will have the Facebook, and anything that Mizzy gave me will be in the show notes that I will put out with the podcast, which will come out tomorrow. So I will bid you guys farewell, and then I'll answer whatever is in the chat that anybody put. But I want to cut you guys out of here because we've got to go hang with my homie Turtle Boy. And let me say this, I love all the content creators out there. The Glare, Brian, LTL, Mike is coming on next week. I'm going to get to talk to brother Mike Crawford, Mazza, and I'm trying to think of Kirk, who I'm just became aware of, and Dave. Those guys are brilliant. What a voice, Kirk has. Wow. It was awesome to hear him. So thank you, everybody. And I'll be seeing you guys soon. Thank you so much for your time. All right.
Take care.
Love you guys. Cheers. All right, everybody in the chat. If we got questions left over here, and let me see what we got here. Oh, maybe this is just a donation, but let me just see if there's anything left that I missed. Okay, here we go. Justice for Sandra Birchmore. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Barbara. I'm gonna sound like Mike Myers from. Let's see. And here is a great panel. Thank you, Caroline. Ms. Turtle. Oh, look at that. Who would have ever called Mizzy Ms. Turtle? Oh, this is cool, man. Peter Murphy and Susanne are hanging out with us. That's pretty dope. Ruth, thank you so much, my dear. I appreciate you. And this is a thank you all. You rock. And I just love. Do you know how many I love Peters we've got tonight, Peter? Do you know how many people have said that? We can't hear you. You got to unmute.
No, I do not know the answer to that. I hope you're going to say a few.
If I say a dozen, I'll probably be short. There are a lot of I think the ladies love Peter. I think that not only just Peter himself as a guy, and then also what he's doing. Suzanne, what do you think?
All the love.
Now you're on music.
All the love for Peter.
Yeah.
So those who don't know yet, they're gonna know. That's why we're here. If you don't know, now you know.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dawn. Yeah, Peter is definitely, he's doing things that, like I said, that are behind the scenes that everybody doesn't see to bring things forward. And we're really lucky that he's doing that. More Nurse Kim love. I love when she said that she used Nurse Kim's thing. I love your face, Nurse Kim. Because that's one of her lines that I love. So, all right, everybody's going to go over. And thank you. Hey, David, thank you so much, David Cornish. I appreciate it, brother. You guys rock. Here's another. I think that we had a Love You, Mizzy. And I think that's it for tonight. Let's go watch Turtle Boy. All right?
Thank you so much. Good night.
One love. It's a pleasure to meet you, Suzanne. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
All right, let me see if I can bring this out. My cab video. Let me see. Is this it? No. Oh, this is it. There it goes. No, that's not it either. I can never find my videos when I need them. Oh, here it is. Cab outro.